What's your favorite thing about doing the podcast? What do you really like about it?
Just talking to my brother. I think in the span of a season, obviously you get, a lot of stuff going on. In past years, we don't really do a great job of keeping in touch. So, obviously being able to do this once a week, like forces us to kind of keep in touch. And it's been really fun just from that perspective.
Do you plan what you're going to talk about, or you just sort of wing it, or how do you do it?
We have a whole production team and group that really helps us out for the whole show. There are things that, that we want to talk about, and they can help us fill areas that, maybe we don't have guidance on. So I think that between that, we kind of figure out a way to talk for an hour and a half, and that's about it.
I think you're surprised how well it's been received.
Yeah. I'm surprised that, I don't know I didn't really have that many expectations going into it, I think. But I guess I'm surprised because I still feel like we're not very good at it. So the people that are listening to it is good. I think had our first guest this week, Paul Rudd. And, man, kudos to you guys. Interviewing people is not easy. It was very I'm supposed to try and make this thing feel like a conversation and make somebody comfortable, and I feel like I was just not very good at it all. It's a surprise for my brother, so the whole burden was on me to kind of set the stage, and Paul kind of saved the day by just being the charismatic guy he was. But I'm quickly realizing that might not be as easy as maybe other people make it look.
Well, I've listened to a couple of them, and I think one of the keys to the success is you guys are just yourself, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
It's just natural.
Yeah, we're just talking ball. Obviously, there's a lot going on with football right now, so there's plenty of football to talk about, and, we know a thing or two in that realm, and then outside of that, this is, we're just really just capturing how my brother and I talk to each other regardless if the camera's on or not, which I think is what people have said they like a lot.
Hey, Jason, for all the conversation we have about Jalen, we don't talk about his football IQ quite as much. I was wondering if somebody, has obviously a lot of film sessions with him, things like that. Could you kind of take us inside to help shed light on where he is and that?
Well, yeah, I don't know much about the passing concepts and things like that. My football IQ in that realm is pretty low. But in terms of the run game adjustments, the kills, getting to different plays at the line of scrimmage based on what the defense is in, you've seen him mature and get better and better at that. You've seen him be more confident in making those adjustments when he does see them. I think that obviously as he's had more experience and more just film study throughout the course of the last 2.5 years, you're seeing a guy that really is confident to make those changes and get us into plays that are conducive.
Jason, have you had a chance to think about how quirky this schedule is? You're seeing Zach Ertz this week. You saw Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz, maybe Jason Peters.
Yeah, I guess it just hit me when we talked. I think I saw a soundbite from Zach. I'm like, that's crazy. We're seeing Carson, Doug, and Zach all right there. And then I didn't even think about JP next week, which now obviously will happen. So, yeah, a lot of former players and teammates. I feel like, at this point, when you've played as long as I have, every week you're kind of facing somebody that you have some type of history with. It's rare that you're playing a team that you don't at least know a coach or a player at this point that you played with. But the fact that it's 4 guys that were such a huge part of our organization and team in back-to-back weeks is that's definitely unique.
Jason, you played on some great offenses, 2013 and 2017 specifically stand out. When you look at what you guys are capable of this year and you look at some of those great offenses you played on, I don't want to ask you to compare, but just where's the ceiling in this group? And, do you think this could potentially be a group that's as explosive and consistent as those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just from an offensive line perspective, I think that the 2013 and 2017 years, we had really, really great offensive line that stayed healthy outside of Jason Peters going down in 2017. So, I think that Your offensive line won't necessarily win you a lot of games, but it can lose you a lot of games, and it can kind of derail an offense if it's not intact. But I think if we also had good depth on the offensive line in 2017, which I think we have here. And I think skill position-wise, yeah, I don't know that I've been a part of a receiving corps as dynamic as this. I mean, between all three receivers, you can add in Zach Pascal with that too. You add in Dallas Goedert, the running backs that we have. I mean, there's quite a few playmakers on this offense. And then the quarterback and his abilities, both in the pass and in the run game, there are a lot of things that we can do. And it's, I would imagine that's hard for defenses to stop. So, yeah, I think if we stay healthy and we stay working hard, I think that, yeah, we can be just as good, if not better than those years.
With respect to Jack at left tackle, I know it's a little antiquated to say that left tackle is so much more important than right tackle. But athletically, aside from playing a position he hasn't played a ton, what allows him to get the job done there?
Well, if you're going to play tackle in the seat, you got to be able to block in space. You got to be a good athlete. You got to be able to move. And I think Jack has a lot of those things. And he's proven it on the right side. I don't think at this era of football that the right tackle is like this big mammoth guy that can just not have to pass block anymore. I think you have to do it on both sides. Luckily, we have a really good one in Lane Johnson. But the fact that Jack has done a really, really good job on the right side and pass blocking, a lot of times that'll transition over, and he'll be able to do a great job on the left. Between Jack, Andre Dillard's getting back, and Jordan Mailata, I think hopefully this is good news on the shoulder, not as serious as maybe we thought. I think we got some pretty good depth there at tackle.
Seems like Stout is now getting kind of nationally recognized as one of the best position coaches in football.
Mm-hmm.
How can you sort of sum up the why behind that? Like what separates him from the greats?
We kind of talked about this actually on the podcast just yesterday, but Stout's hard to describe because, you can't really fully comprehend it until you're in there with him and being coached by him. And obviously he's extremely knowledgeable, experienced, and strategic and able to building a game plan and something that's conducive for the players. He tells us all week, everything I do is to try and put you guys in good positions to succeed. And he does a phenomenal job of that. And that's one of his strengths. Then another one of his strengths is he's an outstanding technician who understands how to hit run blocks, understands how to teach pass blocking and footwork and all of that. But I think probably his greatest strength is his intensity, his passion, and his energy. I mean, I cannot believe sometimes it's you're in awe of how much energy he brings every single day. How much he just never stops coaching. Guys will joke about it. Other coaches will joke about it. Because it's just so jaw-dropping the amount of endurance he has to coach people. And I think that's why you see backups go in the game and you play well. You see he just can't help himself. It's just kind of like he was made to be an offensive line coach. The hungry dogs run faster, all the little quotes. Doesn't even need to say them, he just lives them. When you're in the meeting room with him, you better be there. If you're not there, he's going to ask you a question, cold call him. That's like his signature. He's going to just spout up. And if you don't have it on your tongue, ready to go, he's going to be ripping you. And, I think he gets the most out of every player who has ever played for him. And that's usually the mark of a pretty darn good coach.
A head coach?
I think he could be. I think, to me, a good head coach, a lot goes into being a successful head coach. But I think the most important thing in my mind as a head coach is you're the leader of the whole group. You're the manager of the whole team. It's your job to get the most out of everyone, coaches, players, and to facilitate that environment. I think Nick Sirianni does a tremendous job of this, but I think Jeff Stalin would do a great job of that too. I think that's sometimes where organizations go wrong. They want to hire like the next offensive genius, the next defensive genius. So that's great. Those guys make great coordinators, but the offensive schemers and defensive schemers are not rare in my opinion. The guys that are rare are the Pete Carrolls, the Belichicks, the Reeds, those guys that, Andy Reid's just asleep in this building. The guys that hold everyone to the standard and they live it themselves and they get the most out of their players and their coaches. Those are the guys who end up having careers that last longer than a system that kind of dries up. So yeah, I think he'd be a great head coach.
More we gotta let him get to Walker. As far as like Zach Ertz goes, like I know you guys, he talked about it earlier this week and the relationship he has with you and Lane and Fletch and BG. But when you get distance between you, like he's in Arizona now, do you make it a point to get together like in the off season at all, or how close are you and him?
I don't do a great job of keeping in touch with a lot of former teammates. To be honest with you, are you talking about JP and Ertz and just Zach in particular? We text. I know that he and Julie just had their first baby not too long ago. Really, really happy for them. That was something they've always kind of been on the back burner until Julie's done being the unbelievable soccer player she is, at least for a little bit. So I think, for some reason I just don't do a great job outside of that. But I think when you get opportunities and there's kind of like if I know I'm going to be in Arizona and I text Zach, right? Or if I know I'm going to be somewhere where somebody else is, you shoot him a text, or somebody's coming to Philly. You know what I mean? That's kind of where it happens. But I probably keep in touch with a handful of guys, maybe once or twice a year. And Zach's certainly one of those guys.
With Landon, there have been a couple blocks of his that have sort of, been on Twitter this week.
Yeah,
coming in.
Should be.
How important is being mean, do you think?
It's a good trait. Yeah. Everybody needs somebody like Landon Dickerson, and every team does. I really love when teams have a good balance of all these different personalities and people, and every team needs that. The Bash Brothers or the guy that the other team is kind of intimidated by, and Landon, without question, has that ability. So does Jordan Mailata at times. Just two big, monstrous men that, when they impose their will, it's hard for anybody to stop that. And we've seen this from Landon last year. We've seen it from him all offseason with, some of these counter plays where he's just completely brutalized an edge player. The physicality and be able to, when you need to, let that loose. That's a tremendous trait for, especially an offensive line to have. It's not, I can talk a lot, but I don't have the physical stature that Landon and Jordan and some of these guys have, And, we had that a few years back. Brandon Brooks certainly brought a level of that. Jason Peters always brought a level of that. On the defensive side, Fletcher Cox has always brought that. Now we're seeing a young kid with Jordan Davis, who that's going to be partly his role. These big guys, these physical players, that's part of their role. And I think Landon embraces that for sure.
Yes, John Ryan.
Yeah, we're going to keep going back. John was certainly John, the dirtiest player in the league, who is now in charge of the fine system of the NFL. I love John, though. John's tremendous.
Thanks, Jay.